Hello, welcome to another Science Fiction Friday with me, the author, Michael Campling. And I'm wearing my new blue shirt, so I hope you like that. And a blue t-shirt matching. Very fashionable, probably not. Anyway, I think there's a big fly in here somewhere. So if you see... Oh, there it goes. If you see me acting like a mad person, you probably won't be able to hear it. But if I'm sort of going like that in the manner of... that guy, was it Christopher Lloyd? He used to be very good at doing that. Or am I thinking of somebody else? I'm not sure. Anyway, write in and tell me. Is the microphone near enough? Excuse me. Quick sound check. So, reading Dial G for Gravity, which has a totally different cover to this one, and was actually edited subsequently to this. So, again, I mean, it'd been edited before, but it was I had another person have a go at it. So there was a sort of malfunction the other day where we came upon a bit of profanity that I wasn't expecting. Okay, so yeah, do seek it out if you like it. If you like a science fiction comedy, and it is supposed to be funny, it's not a serious science fiction at all. It sort of pays homage. There's a fly. It pays an homage to all my favourites, because I love sci-fi, those sort of funny things. So last time we were on chapter 9. This is episode 9, by the way, I forgot to say, and it was really long, so we stopped part way through. It's a little sort of change of scene where Brent, who has sort of bumbled into the office, not really sure where he's been. He thinks he's been drinking, but Vince tells him that's not true, and he goes out to somewhere. He has a flyer on his desk for somewhere called Martha's Place, where he's about to go for lunch and hopefully not pay for it. So I shall launch into it, record it as live for authenticity. So if I make mistakes, you know what's going to happen. I'm just going to have another go at it. Just put my vinyl hat into place. Hat about vinyl, not made of vinyl, obviously. I'm one of those mates today. I guess it's Friday. Okay. The owner of Martha's Place had clearly given an interior decorator free rein, and as Brent scanned the room, searching for a vacant table, he felt his high hopes sinking in the pit of his empty stomach. "This joint is too busy trying to be different," he told himself. "Same as every other goddamn place." He strolled toward the counter, the heels of his shoes catching on the uneven floorboards, and Vince followed close behind. "I guess they really went for that industrial age chic," Vince said, admiring a gleaming wall. "The last time I saw this much sheet steel was on one of those history shows on TV. Brent's only reply was a grunt, but when he reached the counter, he tapped its surface with his knuckle. "Fake. Synthetic. Not even real plastic. I doubt whether there's a single ounce of solid steel in the whole place." "Oh." Vince's smile vanished, and Brent studied the young man with something approaching pity. The kid really needed to get wise to the ways of the world. He needed toughening up, teaching a lesson or two. And maybe this mystery of the missing 10 days, whatever the cause turned out to be, might be just the opportunity to set the kid on the right track. He could let him tag along for a while. After all, Vince might be soft, but he had a physique that would intimidate most people. Sometimes a big guy could provide a little leverage just by showing up, and according to Brent's first rule of physics, a little leverage could go a long way. "Just so long as I can get the kid to keep his trap shut," he thought. A young man, excuse me, a young man wearing bright blue overalls and a hard hat appeared on the other side of the counter and greeted them with a grin. His name badge read Matt and proclaimed his title as Food Engineer First Class. "Welcome to Martha's. Table for two. Would you like to see a menu first?" Brent looked along the row of tall stools drawn up to the counter. "Can't we just eat here?" Matt bowed his head. "Sorry, sir, they're just for show, but we can find you a table, no problem at all." Brent pulled at a stool and found that it was bolted to the floor, the seat disappearing beneath the counter's edge so that the stool couldn't be used with any comfort. "A table for two would be fine," Vince said. "Anywhere is just great." "No, we need somewhere quiet," Brent put in. "We have business to discuss." "Sure." Matt waved to a young woman who seemed to be dressed as a production line worker, complete with plastic safety spectacles and orange ear defenders. Daubs of something like grime had been artfully daubed on her cheeks. "This way!" she yelled. "Follow me!" She set off across the restaurant, and Brent followed, his hands in his pockets. The woman pointed to a table, shouting, "Here's your table! I'll be back to take your order in a minute. Can I get you something to drink?" "Coffee," Brent said, opening his mouth wide to enunciate the word as clearly as he could, but the woman just frowned. "Coffee!" Brent called. "Why don't you take those damn things off your ears?" The woman put her hands on her hips. "Do you want a drink or not?" "Let me," Vince said, putting his hands together to form a letter T. Realization dawned on the woman's face. "2 teas coming up," she said, and hurried away. "I don't want tea," Brent complained. "What am I, your maiden aunt?" "All right, wise guy," Vince said, taking a seat. "You tell me how to mime the word coffee." Brent sat heavily, casting a glance at the table of 6 people right next to them. Almost certainly a family group. They were all vying for the title of loudest person in the room, their conversation limited to whatever box set they were currently obsessed by. They had strong opinions on the lead actors, who were either brilliant or completely inept, depending on whether you listened to the shiny-faced youngsters or the jaded older members of the group. The latter looking as though they'd given up caring about most things a long time ago. But whatever their stance, all members of the group were unwilling to give way on any point, no matter how insignificant. "I can hardly hear myself think," Brent said. "I asked for somewhere quiet." Vince shrugged. "I guess it is, as far as our waitress is concerned. I'm starting to see why she wears the ear defenders. I wonder if she could let me have a pair." "Never mind that. We need to start work. I have 10 days to piece together, so why don't we start with the last time you saw me?" "Let me see," Vince began. "Wait, here come our drinks." The waitress placed 2 mugs on the table. "Are you ready to order?" Vince started a complex series of gestures, but Brent waved his attempt aside. Then he pulled the flyer from his pocket. He pointed at the special offer, making sure his finger was on exactly the right place. Then he pointed at Vince and himself. The waitress leaned forward to study the flyer, and then she cast him a dismissive look. "It's Thursday!" Brent frowned, baffled. He fought the urge to pluck the ear defenders from the girl, and settled instead for an exaggerated Gallic shrug. "You can have 2 bowls of the special chili," the girl intoned. Oh, it wasn't very intoned, was it? "You can have 2 bowls of the special chili," the girl intoned. "But they're only half price on Wednesdays, between 11 and 11:45. So you can either pay full price or come back next week." "Next week? What the hell are you talking about?" Brent slapped the flyer down on the table, pointing repeatedly to the correct item. "I don't care," he yelled. "Just give us the goddamn chili, 1 each. Today, not next week. Now." "Fine," the waitress said. "No need to be like that." She flounced away, and Brent realized that the family on the next table had fallen silent, all of them regarding him with profound distaste. "Really?" the matriarch of the group grumbled. "Some people." Brent leaned his elbows on the table and held his head in his hands. "This day had better not get any worse, or I swear I'll do something I regret." "Let's get started on the case," Vince said hopefully. "The last time I heard from you was on a Sunday. I called you up at around 5 o'clock to remind you about paying me, and you promised faithfully to do it the very next day." Brent narrowed his eyes. "Really? That doesn't sound like the kind of thing I'd say." "All right, I made that last part up, but you can't blame a fella for trying." Vince grinned. "The first part was true, though. I called you, and you told me I'd get paid, but I'd have to stand in line and wait my turn." "Then what?" "Then you hung up. I won't lie to you. We've had pretty much that same conversation plenty of times, and that's always the way it goes. Brent sat back. Every word had the ring of truth, and though he hated to admit it, the more he remembered about himself, the less he liked what he heard. So why do you stay? A young guy like you must be able to get a better job. Like I said back in the office, I want my investigator's license, and you took me on. He thought for a moment. I'll level with you, since you seem to have forgotten pretty much everything. I don't have any qualifications, and I don't have any references. But I do have a conviction for hacking into a computer system, and that's always counted against me. But when I told you about it, you weren't concerned. In fact, you seemed quite interested. Who did you hack? A bank? A secret government database? Brent smirked, then took a sip of tea. No, it was stupid, really. Vince drew circles on the table with his finger. Then he lowered his voice and said, I hijacked a UN drone and sent it circling around my buddies' houses just for kicks. But I got caught, you know, by the glow bonds. Holy shit! Brent cried out. One of the children on the next table goggled at him, but Brent took no notice. Something's coming back to me. Is it something about the glow bonds? Did they have something to do with your disappearance? I mean, they kind of abducted you because of your immunity, but... Brent grabbed Vince's arm, pressing it hard against the table. No, it's more important than that. I remembered that if there's one thing I really can't stand, it's tea. He pointed accusingly at the mug. Especially goddamned English breakfast. Ah, disgusting. The waitress sidled up to the table bearing 2 bowls of chili and plonked them down on the table without ceremony. I hope she's not expecting a tip, Brent murmured, and the young woman shot him a hostile look. Some phrases, it seemed, passed straight through her ear defenders without hindrance. Thank you, Vince yelled. This looks delicious. Enjoy, she replied without enthusiasm, then strolled away, oblivious to the many diners who called out to her as she passed. Laughing at my own joke. Of course she would, wouldn't she, because she's wearing ear defenders. Okay. As part of her post-industrial chic. Brent grabbed a fork and tucked into his chili. This ain't bad. He chewed thoughtfully. Mediocre, definitely. But bad would be an overstatement. He swallowed and took another forkful. Okay, we talked on Sunday at 5. When did you next try calling me? The next day around noon, Vince replied. No answer. I tried 3 or 4 times, but you never picked up. Then over the next week and a half, I called once a day, but there was never any answer. 10 days. I still can't get over it. Brent laid down his fork. Are you sure I don't drink? Because I'm telling you, I could use a stiff one right about now. Definitely. I haven't seen you take anything stronger than coffee for a long time. You swore not to touch a drop when... He hesitated. You must remember what happened, surely. I don't know if I can go over it now. He glanced at the neighbouring table. Not here. Brent shook his head. I'm drawing a blank on that, but I remember something, though. Don't tell me you don't like chili, because I know that isn't true. No. I remember her. Vince followed Brent's gaze, and together they watched a tall, smartly dressed woman saunter across the restaurant. You wish, Vince muttered. Forget it, Brent. She wouldn't look at you twice. And she's definitely not one of your clients. There's no way I would have forgotten her. I'm serious, Brent insisted. I know her. He raised his hand to point at her, and when she turned and saw him, Brent was 100% certain. Her name is Maisie. Maisie Richmond. For a full second, Maisie and Brent stared at each other, and Vince looked from one to the other, his head swivelling like a plastic dog on a parcel shelf. What is she, an actress? Vin asked. You must have seen her on TV or something. Don't you get it? Brent demanded. She knows what happened to me. She knows because she was there. He stood clumsily, squeezing out from behind the table, and at the same time Maisie turned away and started walking, heading for the exit with long strides. Come on, Vince. We have to catch her. Brent set off in pursuit, but the waitress blocked his path, waving a check in the air. Brent pointed at Vince, who was shoveling forkfuls of chili into his mouth as he stood. "He's paying." Brent rubbed his forefinger and thumb together. Then he pointed at Vince. "Excuse me," Vince was saying as he picked his way between the tables, his bulky frame proving a disadvantage. "Excuse me. Oops, sorry about that. Don't worry, that'll wash right out." "For God's sake!" Brent snatched the check from the young woman's fingers and passed it back to Vince. "Him! Chase him and get the hell out of my way!" The waitress caught sight of the chaos Vince was causing, and Brent took advantage of her confusion, sidestepping neatly around her and making for the door. Maisie had beaten him to it, but the door was still swinging, and Brent barged through. Out on the sidewalk, Maisie had taken off in earnest, running at a good speed despite her high heels and pencil skirt. She looked over her shoulder, then increased her pace, and Brent went after her. "Maisie, wait!" he called out. But if she heard him, she did not respond other than to dart into a side street. Brent slowed to a jog. His memories of the city might be impaired, but his intuition was still sharp, and something told him that his quarry had taken refuge in a dead-end street. He had her cornered. "Boss, wait up!" Vince pounded along the sidewalk to join him. "What happened? Did you lose her?" Brent pointed. "She ducked into that alley, but we'd better be careful." "You think it's a trap?" Vince's eyes were round with awe. "Did someone send her to find you so she could lure you to your doom?" "Seriously?" Brent ran his hand through his hair. "Where did you get that idea? Some stupid true crime magazine?" "Of course not. It stands to reason, that's all. It fits." "Vince, whatever this is, it's probably not going to be a thrilling, glamorous conspiracy, all right? I'll bet there are 1,000 explanations for what's going on, and every single one of them will be as dull as a drizzly Sunday in Des Moines." "Hey, my Aunt Bethany lives in Des Moines." Brent folded his arms. "No doubt she's a case in point, but we're getting sidetracked. Back in the real world, if we go herring into a dead-end alley after a girl, she might just figure on fighting her way out. For all we know, she might be carrying a weapon." "Or she might have called the cops," Vince put in. "Now you're thinking," Brent said. "Either way, we could end up in trouble." "Let me put it another way, boss. I think she called the cops. Look." Vince's eyes went to something behind Brent's shoulder, and as Brent turned around, a police cruiser glided to a halt just a few feet away. "Let's take a walk," Brent said smoothly. "Just a couple of guys out for a stroll." "Police, hold it right there, sir." "What do we do?" Vince hissed. "Do we run?" Brent sighed. "We comply with the nice officers. We remember that we didn't do anything wrong, and we definitely don't mention anything about chasing after mysterious ladies, all right?" "Got it." The pair of police officers strode toward them, standard issue mirror shades hiding their eyes. "What's the hurry?" one of them demanded. "No hurry," Brent said. "Just eager to get back to work, that's all." The second officer held out his hand. "ID." Brent and Vince produced their wallets, and the officers scrutinized their driver's licenses, recording the details with their handheld scanners before passing them back. Brent smiled throughout the process, but his beatific expression faltered when Maisie appeared at the alley's mouth. "Excuse me, officers," she said. "I was the one who called you." She held out an ID of her own, and the officer stood tall, making a full assessment of her appearance before they glanced at her credentials. "Thank you, ma'am. Are these the men who are harassing you?" Maisie held eye contact with Brent, and a flicker of mischief lit her eyes. She was enjoying the moment, and she wanted him to know it. "Harassing?" Brent asked. "Goodness me, what a terrible thing to suggest. I've never seen this woman before in my life, unless—" He looked skyward as if deep in thought. "Wait a minute, though. Did we meet at the fundraiser? Let's see. Alligators, wasn't it? You were there on behalf of the UN." "Perhaps," Maisie said. "You have a remarkably good memory, Mr.
Bolster, but please call me Brent."
He held out his hand.
"A pleasure to meet you again, Miss Redmond."
"Oh, sorry."
"A pleasure to meet you again, Miss Richmond."
Likewise, I'm sorry if I've caused you some trouble, Brent. A couple of uncouth hoodlums were pursuing me. Awful, criminal types. They had a deranged look. Deadbeats, drug addicts, probably, or worse.
Really? Are you sure?
Brent asked with a rictus grin.
Perhaps they were innocent guys who merely wanted to ask a few simple questions.
Maisie grimaced. Definitely not. These were villains. You know the kind. Vermin. Scum. The dregs of society. The police officers were watching this charade with undisguised suspicion, but the tense silence was broken by a bleep from the radios the officers wore on their vests. One of the officers pressed a finger against his set, and after a brief hiss, a faint message came through. Brent couldn't make it all out, but he caught his name and a phrase that sounded like,
"Do not detain him in any way."
"All right, you're good to go, Mr. Bolster," the cop said. "Looks like you have friends in all the right places."
"Always nice to have friends," Brent replied, without dropping his broad smile.
But something in the police officer's phrase had tugged at his memory, plucking at a tight knot in the tangle of his battered consciousness.
Friends in high places.
The words ran through his mind like street urchins on the run, kicking over his cerebral furniture and upending cartloads of mental images into the bargain. The officers turned their attention to Maisie. "Miss Richmond, do you need a ride? We can swing past the UN and drop you right by the door. No trouble at all." "Why, thank you," Maisie said. "That would be wonderful. How kind of you." "That's exactly where I was headed next." Both officers smiled, and one said, "Always a pleasure to help the good folks up at the UN."
"Yeah, I must be getting back to work too," Brent chipped in. "My office is on Ganymede Street, not far from here, so my associate and I will walk."
"Whatever," one of the cops said as he climbed into the cruiser. His colleague held the door open for Maisie, then shut it firmly before climbing inside himself. The cop looked out through the open side window, and as the car pulled back into the traffic, he stared at Brent for a lot longer than was necessary.
"That woman," Brent murmured, "is nothing but trouble."
But deep down, he knew that if he was ever going to find out what had happened to him, Maisie Richmond was going to play a very important part. Woohoo! That's the end of chapter 9. So, hope you are enjoying Dial G for Gravity. Because I wrote it quite a few years ago, I'd forgotten some of the jokes, so sorry for laughing at my own stuff. But I like to poke fun at some modern things as well, like all these restaurants that try to be different, and but they end up like all the same because they're all trying to be different. And they've all got their own odd little themes these days. They put up like industrial duct or something. But the little joke here is that the industrial age is over because we're post-global invasion, so the whole world has changed. So this is why Vince hasn't seen steel, and the steel isn't real, and it's not even real plastic because everything's been replaced with something else because the Globons have brought new technology. And I guess sci-fi fans will read into that sort of thing and see all those clues themselves and think, well, why is he explaining all this? But it's fun, isn't it? So we might have a different perspective, and I'm seeing this new. I'm coming to this afresh again, and it's funny when you've written something a few years ago, because as a writer you change as you go on. So I hope you're enjoying it. Pretty sure, I don't know if it's on my store yet at authormichaelcampling.com. If it isn't right this second, if you're listening to it on the day it's put out, it will be very soon, because I'm going to go and do it just to make sure it's there. And if not, you can look on other stores such as Kobo, Smashwords, Nook, Apple, and so on, even Amazon. And there are paperbacks, and you will see the new cover as well when you go elsewhere. The reason I'm humming and hawing about that a bit is I've had quite a lot of books out over the years, and I've been changing stuff recently about which stores I'm on, which retailers, and on my own store I'm building that up, so trying to get that going. And a lot of indie authors like to have their own store, and I've said this in other podcasts, because it cuts out the retailers, so they don't, we don't have to pay homage to them, we don't have to wait ages to get our money, and we don't let to have them have a cut. So it means that we can charge lower prices. We can give special offers. I'm into doing bundles at the moment, so I've got some bundles over there on my site. I give a 20% discount if you buy a couple of the books at once, or 3 books in one case. You get a discount on all of them, which is a nice way to give extra value to readers. And it's that connection between the indie author and the readers, which is really valuable. So that's just a nice thing to have. So, we care more about our readers than a big retailer ever will. So if you want me to keep doing these readings, do please like, comment, subscribe. There's that little trilogy of things. It all helps because it encourages me to keep going. And it also helps other people to find it, because if you like it, then all the little algorithms will go to work and feed this stuff out to people who they think are similar to you. I think that's kind of how it works, isn't it? Who knows? Anyway, it's Friday, so have a great weekend wherever you are. I'm doing a half marathon on Sunday, and it's going to be very, very hot. So I guess it's not going to be terribly quick, because we're all got to be careful we don't keel over. Drinking lots of water. Hope it all goes well. Subscribing to Substack is a great thing as well. authormichaelcampling.substack.com. Pardon me, because then you find everything that is all there together. Okay, happy reading. Take care. Have a great weekend. Look after yourselves, and bye.